Imagine a world where you are part of a community that sees you for all that you bring and propels you to become your very best self. A world where everyone is valued for what they bring and everyone gets the support they need. Savor Exchange brings this dream to reality by empowering individuals, communities, and organizations with the right tools and resources to change the world. We do this by organizing people near and far around a goal or project and bringing them together and measuring their success. Our data analytical reports will provide information to support transparency and critical needs in today's world. The SavorX app acts as a secure bridge to multiple communities, including those defined by you, and allows everyone within their community to contribute time through service and request help for themselves. Members can also donate service credits, money, or goods back to their community. Go to www.savorxapp.com to learn more and start your Savor community today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ginny Sassaman, and I am going to be talking about a new book called Preaching Happiness. And oh my gosh, it looks like Paul is joining us. A new book, Preaching Happiness, with my friend Beth Allgood. And we'll do that for about a half an hour. And then we're going to change gears and talk about the gross national happiness happiness dinners. And I see Paula is here, and I'm guessing that it's Paula Francis, but I don't know. Maybe you could put that in the chat. So as we get started, it's Paula, another former president of GNHUSA. So let me just start by saying this event is brought to you by Shiva Exchange. Give what you love and get what you need to get things done. Reinventing volunteerism by providing an easy-to-use web and mobile platform to discover one's passions through community service and to seek help when in need. Okay, Beth?
Great. I had to mute for a minute with noise, but you can hear me, right? I'm back on. Okay. Thank you, Ginny. Thank you for having me here today. And I'm so excited to introduce you because you're the star of our show today. Ginny is the author of Preaching Happiness, a happiness trainer and activist, and the co-founder of Gross National Happiness USA, and a former president, as she mentioned. And I've known Ginny and Paula for about 5, 6, 7, since 2014 or so, 2012, 2013, and through Gross National Happiness. And it's just really exciting to be here. I'm just going to turn it over to Ginny and ask first, basically, why you wrote the book, what you think is different about your approach to start off with, and then we'll kind of get rolling from there.
Great. And I neglected to say that Beth has recently started an amazing new organization, which this planet desperately needs, called One Nature, about how we all can come together and for the well-being of all beings, the entire planet. So I wrote this book because I have felt like, first of all, I'm passionate, as are all of you, about happiness and the value of cultivating both personal happiness and systems change. Here comes Lisa, for a better world for all of us. You know, and that some people think that focusing on personal happiness is self-centered. And I think just the opposite. I think it's really one of the best things we can do for the planet and for our friends, our small communities, our big communities. When we grow the happiness within, we're so much better equipped to help others and to work for change on a broader scale. So that's one piece of it. But at the same time, we're all very much affected by systems and what happens to us, and how happy we can be personally is very affected by what is happening to us from a bigger picture. You know, a couple of years ago, I was with Paula and we were at the World Happiness Summit. And I remember the head of the Miami-Dade school system was there to talk about happiness in the schools. But he didn't really, he dropped back in it. He said, this was at a time when there was a lot of rounding up of undocumented immigrants. And he said, how can I expect the children in these schools to be happy when they are living in fear that they might come to school and never see their parents again? You know, so that's a very drastic example, but all of us are subject to what happens on the systems level. And, you know, I got involved in happiness through the systems door, getting interested in and excited about the gross national happiness concept. But then I started to learn about personal happiness too, and finding that also to be the science of positive psychology, very exciting. And then over the years, it seemed like there are not that many people who are working in that nexus, that there are a group of people really working on changing systems through changing what we measure for well-being. And there's a group that's very focused on the science of personal happiness. And to me, the two are just completely dependent on one another and completely intertwined. So that book was in me. And then when I got started, when I was asked to write a series of sermons for Unitarian churches, and for those of you who don't know, a Unitarian church is very kind of secular. There's no particular religious dogma. It's about being good. It's about being a member of the broader community. And there's also a lot of intellectualism involved. So I ended up writing a series of sermons for this little tiny church that's summers only. And as I was writing them, I realized this is the book. So this is combining the personal and the big political systems change. And it's bringing together research, inspiring speakers, and personal story, because stories is also how we learn. So I thought this is a great vehicle to put out there and help people both learn practical tools that they can do in their own lives, and also get inspired, and also to see the need for systems change and how they can work for systems change.
That's great. And how has it been received? Have people really, I mean, what have the reactions been?
It's been very positive. I mean, this book came out in the middle of the pandemic, so there were none of the standard, let's go on a book tour, things like that. But people have really appreciated, you know, I think one of the things that's been most helpful at this point in time, people want to be happy. And to a certain extent in these times, it might feel like that's selfish. And this book, not only it doesn't just give permission, you know, it says it's important, it's valuable. You're helping others by helping yourself to be happy. And it prescribes ways of doing it. And because it was sermons on different topics, so there's, like, for example, on mindfulness or forgiveness, creativity, beauty, people can take it in bite-sized pieces. So read one and focus on that for a little bit, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah, and you can pick the thing that you're maybe perhaps struggling with at that moment, and then read that chapter. My favorite chapter was the gratitude chapter. Well, it changes, I think, depending on the moment in time where you might be looking for something, right? And I loved the gratitude chapter when I reread it recently. And I just wonder what your favorite chapter is.
Yeah, of course, that's like asking a mother who her favorite child is. But I want to say one thing about the gratitude chapter, which sometimes is my favorite. I really like it because it explains why gratitude is so helpful. I mean, I feel like Oprah's been talking about a gratitude journal for years. I think most people have heard gratitude is really important, but it helps explain why it matters. Again, drawing on stories and on scientific research, particularly Robert Emmons, who is maybe the most preeminent researcher on gratitude that there is. By the way, hi to everybody who's joined us, and any questions, feel free to pop them into chat and we'll try to answer. My favorite right now is kindness. And kindness, there's a couple of reasons. And one is, obviously, we need more kindness. Just politically with the pandemic, kindness is just really something that everybody needs more of. And also, of course, when we give kindness, it helps lift our own spirits. But similarly, this chapter looks at why kindness matters and kind of how it works. And also, I was so surprised when I wrote this chapter, when I wrote it first as a sermon, to learn that kindness is not universally valued, and that there's a long history of kindness being sort of poo-pooed and relegated, like only women are allowed to be kind, or like priests, like saintly people are allowed to be kind, because kindness didn't really feed the kind of economic and political systems that we had. So it was really denigrated. And gosh, I just found that so surprising and also so sad. And it still is. People still think of it as, to an extent, as a luxury or an extra, when in fact, I think it's what our hearts and our souls really crave. Kindness.
I just got off, sorry, I was late. We were finishing up with Patch Adams, and he was talking about survival of the kindest, not the fittest. And I really, that was a pretty, Kate was on that call. Kate, you want to comment on that?
Sorry, I had to figure out how to unmute. Yeah, and well, what's going through my mind as a sociologist, and also focusing on diversity and inclusion and things like that, I think there's certain attributes most associated with feminine and masculine, and whatever's associated with feminine is still devalued.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you expect women to be kind and men don't want to be effeminate or perceived as that, if they're, I work with the military too, which makes things very interesting. I think it's a devaluing of what has been labeled potentially a feminine characteristic in this society.
And it's centuries old. I mean, it's nothing brand new. And another piece that really grabbed me when I was working on it, though, was a story from Ta-Nehisi Coates. And I don't know if you know who he is. He's he's a really preeminent Black journalist, really writing about in unflinching terms about the contemporary American Black experience. And I share a story from him that he was in Paris and a gentleman was being very kind to him, kind of did all these nice things, and that his response was, what does he want? Is he going to jump me? Something bad going to happen? And that finally, when the evening ended and he realized, no, this man had just been being kind to him, and he could not allow himself to accept that kindness. And he started to cry. And so I realized that, I mean, with much of the work of the book, over and over, issues of, racial injustice and white supremacy pop up, even here in this wonderful field of happiness. And that, for me, I've been on the happiness walk with Paula, where we receive so much kindness. But I think, and in Vermont where I live, I also feel it's kind. It's a relatively kind place. But there's a certain amount actually of white privilege involved in even being able to give and receive kindness. So that was a surprise. And it's sort of this digging deeper into all these topics that I think are so important and so valuable. And so people who might think that kindness is a light topic, it's not. It's deep and it's important and it's really valuable. So I could read a little bit from the kindness chapter. Would people like that?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
We have a few minutes and then we're going to switch over to talking about gross national happiness and the kindness dinners.
Yep, Pam has a question after you read the thing. It's about gross national happiness.
Oh, okay, great. So that'll be great. That can be a good segue. So I talk about how I think there's a lot of misperceptions about being kind. Let's see. So in the meantime, those of us who are less vulnerable, talking about white supremacy, those of us who are less vulnerable, such that we can practice kindness more freely, might be even more generous with our kindnesses and even more grateful for the opportunities we have to be kind. And we can all exercise greater care. For starters, we can consider that a lack of kindness, not sending a card, not inquiring after a family member's health, might be inadvertently hurtful. Not that we can always be there for everyone, but it's something to be aware of. Indeed, kindness takes discernment. Is this the right thing to do at the right time? Even though giving makes us feel good, kindness is really about the other person. Certainly, we don't want to be patronizing. Giving someone something that they don't want or need might feel good to the giver, but it isn't actually kind. For example, after natural disasters, we might think sending our gently used clothing to survivors is helpful, only to burden them with piles of used clothes, when what they really desperately need is money or a place in which to live or to put the clothes. It's good to consider, is your gift wanted and needed? Would another choice be better? And I'm going to skip ahead to a little story. Once while walking, I found 5 $100 bills in the grass next to the road, along with several pieces of mail that presumably identified the owner. This was just down the street from a middle school, so I went there and learned that, yes, the name on the mail was one of their parents. When I handed over the money, the secretary asked for my name. I declined, saying my identity wasn't important. But maybe it was. I didn't need to be thanked, but maybe they needed to thank me. That story illustrates another point. There can be a lot going on with any single act of kindness. So many decisions, choices, and layers. Paradoxically, though, kindness can be quite simple. In the words of Nkosi Johnson, a South African boy who died from HIV when he was 12 years old, do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place where you are. The Dalai Lama says kindness is his religion, so it seems fitting to give him the final word. Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible.